Welcome to a special edition of the Gruely Truce NFL Pick'em Show. We're after the championship games. We're at our post-game show brought to you by MyBookie.ag. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, let me welcome in my co-host. First up, the only man to go 2-0 picking these games this weekend, Brian Schmidt.
Absolutely. Very happy that we are now in a three-way tie with one game remaining. Cannot be happier.
All right,
That's
and of
all
course,
I have to say right now. I'm giddy.
The Dan Quinn of the show, the man that blew a humongous lead coming into the playoffs, Matt Andruscavage.
I prefer to actually be called the 2017 Mike Goodpaster because that was you last year.
I still won. All right, next up, we've got our next co-host, played for the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 21 at guard for John Elway, and is one of the reasons John Elway was such a great running quarterback. Help us welcome to the show, Mark Cooper.
Hey, that's my line, not your line.
I had to think about that for a second there.
And, of course, you guys heard him first last week. He went 1-1 like me and Matt, I believe, from the University of Cincinnati Sugar Bowl team in 2009 and the Carolina Panthers. Quarterback, Tony Pike. How you doing, Tony?
Good. I also like that, and that was a big part of a team that ushered in the Cam Newton era of Carolina. So really, really a big part of turning things around there for them.
There you go. So you and Coop have something in common. But Coop's guy's already in the Hall of Fame, so.
Right.
They two of them, him and Kelly. Come on.
Oh, yeah. He also made Jim Kelly was a runner in college, wasn't he?
Absolutely. That's why I couldn't run in the pros.
All right, we're going to start off with the Eagles trouncing the Vikings 38-7, which doesn't surprise me that they won, but the way they won, Matt, was fairly impressive.
Oh, definitely. I thought the opening drive for Minnesota was I was pretty impressed with it. I thought they moved the ball well. They exploited some of the weaknesses on the Philly defense, which there aren't many. But they were able to get to that 7-0 lead. But really, the turnovers were the story of the first half because it totally changed the tide, got the crowd in it, took all the momentum away from the Vikings, and it was just what a performance. And Nick Foles, wow, who'd have thought?
Yeah, and how many times, Brian, do we see a team come out, score with ease on their first drive, and then that's it? It happens more times than I can count.
Yeah, if you go back through the history of things like that, I mean, it's continuous. But what a great job the Eagles did. Nick Foles, great game plan. I said last week that Nick Foles would play his best game as a starter, and he did. But really give a lot of credit to coaching staff. The offensive game plan was sound, and when we talk about Jacksonville, I think you can say the same thing about them. A good game plan to allow their quarterbacks to be comfortable, and it just really was those games that once it snowballed and went downhill, I mean, it became an avalanche, and we've seen that many times in situations like that.
Yeah, and Tony, this looked like the Nick Foles of 2013. He was 26 for 33, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he played about as close to a perfect game as you can play as a quarterback.
He did, and the game itself really went to the adage of, what do you do, when you get punched in the face? And we saw Philadelphia Eagles take, Minnesota's best punch. The turnover obviously hurt, but what I was most impressed when you watch Nick Foles is, yes, they were finally converting the third and longs, which they hadn't done since Carson Wentz went out. But really, when you look at what he was doing pre-snap, whether that was showing the snap or using his voice inflection to get the ball snapped, Minnesota's so successful in their defense because of their blitz and how they can hide defenses so well with Coach Zimmer. And he did such a good job pre-snap of getting them to show what they were in that he was able to then change the protection, dissect the coverage, and you saw what he did after that and just picking apart one of the league's best defenses.
Yeah, and we know, Coop, the quarterback gets always gets all the credit. But that Minnesota pass rush, I mean, the Eagles' offensive line did an unbelievable job against them, and are probably the unsung heroes, as the offensive linemen usually are, of the entire game.
Well, I tell you, I really appreciated watching that game. I mean, that offensive line did a hell of a job against the defense, that Minnesota defense. And, you know, it was one thing I didn't understand, though. When do you bring a tight end all the way across, you know, the entire line to go block an outside linebacker that's on the run already? I mean, that's just like an impossible block for that guy to make, you know, on that one turnover. And it just surprises me sometimes, the matchups. You know, we always talk about big on big. You know what I mean? And you're not putting a big on big when you're putting a tight end on a guy that's usually rushing a tackle. So, you know, that didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'll tell you what probably impressed me the most was the speed of the defensive line of the Eagles coming off of blocks, you know, and making tackles, and the speed of the linebackers. And, you know, I don't know that the offensive line of the Vikings, you know, well, they obviously couldn't handle it, but I'm not sure they'd seen that, because how the speed of that defense was amazing to me.
Yeah, and when you look at it offensively, the thing that stood out to me, Tony, was how many guys had their hands in this. You had Zach Ertz with 8 catches. You had Alshon Jeffrey with 5, Torrey Smith with 5, Nelson Aguilar with 3, 59 yards. You had Jay Ajayi. Then, of course, you had Ajayi running for 73 yards. I mean, this was something where when you're playing a defense that talented, you have to be able to keep them off balance, and that's exactly what the Eagles did tonight.
Yeah, the game plan with Nick Foles coming in, they got the ball out quick early. They took their shots down the field to open up that defense. But I thought a huge moment in the game was the LeGarrette Blount touchdown, the 11-yard touchdown run where he absolutely ran over multiple guys of the defense to get in the end zone. That's a tone setter from a guy that's been in the playoffs. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's done those things before. So you got Nick Foles spreading the ball out. And you mentioned the offensive line. I had a chance when I was at the University of Cincinnati to play with Jason Kelsey, who came in as a walk-on linebacker, and to me has turned himself into the best offensive center in football. When you watch how good they are up front, and you give Nick Foles time, especially on the third and longs, when he's able to diagnose a defense, with the weapons they have, they can score on anyone, and they got a really good defense to back it up.
Yeah, and Brian, when I watched this game, the thing that stood out to me was this. I mean, Case Keenum, 28 for 48, 271 yards. But when you look at the Vikings' rushing attack, you had 18 carries for like 70 yards. That's not going to get it done in a game where you got to be able to help this quarterback out a little bit on the road.
Yeah, not able to rush the football, but it's just, you know, and again, when we go back to giving, you know, Philadelphia a lot of credit, this was one of the first games that I've seen Case Keenum this year where he just looked totally uncomfortable. And you have to give credit to Philadelphia's defense, their speed, and you could just see the discomfort that he was having. Obviously, you know, the turnovers don't help. You know, early on especially, I think once that pressure, as I said earlier, once it starts going downhill, it's hard to stop, and that's what happened here. Once you have a quarterback that's uncomfortable, everything just starts going downhill, and we saw that. This is almost a poster for that kind of situation.
Yeah, another thing it's a poster for Matt Andruscavage is maybe don't have a dome if you want to go to the Super Bowl, because now you're 0-12 teams that are coming from the dome to play outdoors. And when you look, and I know I brought this up last week on the show, is their 3 worst performances, the Vikings this year, were all outdoors, and that defense doesn't look as fast when you put them on a slower turf.
Yeah, no question. You know, we've seen this repeatedly over the course of history where dome teams generally don't fare well on the road in the elements. In January, that's generally the case. The Vikings, I still thought early on were in this game. You know, even after the pick six, the biggest play in the game to me was the play that Coop brought up, where you're going to slide a tight end or a fullback or whatever. I forget what I think he's a tight end. You run him into you can't run him into a pass rusher that's already gaining momentum and expect to stop him. It was just that to me was the biggest play, because that would have, if they score on that drive, even a field goal puts them back in the game. And then for Foles to just go and pick apart a defense that has just been fantastic all year, it seemed like every single time the Vikings would get close, it looked like the play was designed to have somebody open for Foles to get the ball out quick, and it worked pretty much every time.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and transition to the AFC Championship game, which is a replay every year, it seems. The New England Patriots beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20, and Tom Brady, 26 for 38, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's aged a bit in the last 15 years, Tony.
No, it's unbelievable watching Tom Brady play. I saw a stat that 16 seasons, he's now going to be in the Super Bowl for 8 of those. When you look at what he's done, and then you come in and you see the stitches on the thumb and what that does as a quarterback, I thought they were in trouble at the start of that game, because the more hits he's got to take, the more under center snaps he's got to take. You figured they wanted to get out to an early lead and be able to kind of sit on it a little bit. But, I mean, you take away Edelman early in the year, you take away Gronkowski earlier in the game, and Tom Brady still finds a way. And it's the only quarterback that I ever know that going through a full season of game plans and having your guys, you lose your best receiving tight end, you have to change your game plan completely, and that's Josh McDaniels, that's Tom Brady being able to adjust on the fly and lead a comeback, against a Jacksonville team that what looked like to me got a little tight when they got the lead there in the fourth quarter at 20-10.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Brian, I mean, New England is the best at getting matchups that are to their advantage, but I will give Doug Marrone discredit in the first half of this game. He did the same thing really successfully, where they were getting mismatches and taking advantage of them.
Yeah, and kind of going to what Tony just said, we saw Jacksonville really come out, get the mismatches, really at times, and I don't want to say they were confusing Tom Brady defensively, but certainly he wasn't able to use the matchups that he's been able to in the past. But again, and we've seen this so many times with New England, is teams come out, they start great, they look. I'm watching this game going, man, Jacksonville, they're going to win. They can win this. But then in my mind, I'm going, watch what happens, and it seems like all of a sudden, they start looking at the clock. They're trying to get that clock to click down as fast as they can. They start getting tight, and New England never gets rattled. And that's exactly what we saw here.
The thing that stood out to me, Matt, was at the end of the first half, over a minute left and 2 timeouts. They got the ball, I think, on their own 30-yard line. The Jaguars had just given up a touchdown. You got the ball to start the second half. And instead of trying to take advantage of that, and I know they're trying to play it safe, but as you saw in the third and fourth quarter when they played it safe, it cost them the game. But as soon as I saw them take that knee with over a minute left and 2 timeouts, I thought, man, they're playing not to lose this game. There's no way they're going to win.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I didn't think for sure that they would lose, but I thought it was a mistake to when you got 50 seconds, 2 timeouts, and a chance to extend the lead, you got to be aggressive. And that's why the Eagles won today, because Doug Peterson's super aggressive. He did not play to lose, or he played to win. And that's what Jacksonville did not do that. And I thought that was a wasted opportunity to take a knee with 50 seconds to a minute to go with 2 timeouts. I don't know. I think you got to try to get points.
Yeah, so playing it safe got them there. And then the other thing that stood out to me, Coop, was they got to Brady with 4 guys until we got to about the middle of the third quarter, and then they weren't anymore. And the thing that really disappointed me with Marrone's defense was the fact that you saw very little blitzing to try to mix it up. And I think that defensive line, as much as Brady threw the ball almost 40 times for the game, was getting tired. And I don't think Jaguars really did anything to counteract that by blitzing it all until like the last drive or 2 of the game where they actually got pressure again. So I think in the end, I mean, they played not to lose this game.
That's exactly what they did. The Jacksonville coaches should go look in the mirror and slap themselves because they absolutely blew that game as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you got that kind of a lead and you go into this mode of not spreading it around. They were running backs out of the backfield, making some great yardage. They had some wide screens. They had across the middle stuff. I mean, they were spreading the ball all over the field. I don't think the Patriots knew what to do at first. They should have won that football game. Those coaches went into, let's not lose this thing. Let's control it. They still had, 7 or 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. If they could have sustained a drive, moved the ball down the field, got three or four first downs, maybe 5, let's call it, just move the ball down the field. They could have controlled the end of that game and kept the score where it was at. But they go into safe mode, run ISO up the middle that they had a lot of success with early on, but then they got shut down, right? So let's go to power. Let's go to some misdirection. Let's go to something else because I absolutely blame that entire game on that coaching staff. That was a joke to finish up like that.
Yeah, and if we watched the Buffalo playoff game, and even in the Pittsburgh game, it happened a few times, Tony, where they would roll Bortles out, bootleg him. He'd either hit somebody in the flat there or he'd run for the first down, and you didn't see near as much of that this week.
No, and you guys make great points. What makes the great teams great is the ability to come out and then adjust, and no one's going to argue the Jacksonville game plan. They possessed the ball. They got the ball out quick. They ran screen game. They took some shots. Bortles looked sharp. But the problem with what I had is, like you said, they didn't get Bortles on the move, especially when he started to get uncomfortable late in that game. They almost just tried to hold on for dear life. But the problem with Blake Bortles, and it's been a problem, a long time now for him, even early in the game when he's completing passes or big third down chances, his accuracy, he leaves the ball behind the receiver on a crossing route. Guy can't catch it and run. And then late in the game, even when Jacksonville was going down to try to win at the end of the game, he had Leonard Fournette down the sideline. If he leads them on that, that's a catch and a touchdown, and we're talking a different story here. But I think it's funny how quarterback play in this league, when Tom Brady got that ball back down 3, you knew he was going to come down and likely score. You just don't feel like that when Blake Bortles gets the ball back in that situation.
Yeah, but
you kind of feel like, well, this is it. Wouldn't
you agree that that's why Brady, Rodgers are different? The fourth quarter throw to them is the same as the first quarter throw, and they're throwing the ball with just as much confidence. And to me, with Bortles thrown behind, I don't think he commits to his throws in big situations.
Yep, absolutely. It gets to a point when you watch Rodgers and Brady and those guys where if you're playing the team that you're watching, the team you're rooting for, the Bengals played the Packers earlier in the year, and I think the Bengals scored with 1:50 left, and you're almost thinking, okay, is Rodgers going to go down? Can we hold him to 3 here, or is he going to get a touchdown? Because you know they're going to make plays late in the game, just like you knew Tom Brady was. And Blake Bortles really had a chance today to kind of rewrite his script and change that, and he wasn't able to. He missed too many receivers open today, and like you said, the play calling just wasn't there at the end.
Yeah, and when I look at this Jaguar team, I'll go with Brian here. I see a lot of people tweeting after the game because they almost won that this team's going to be great for the next few years. I don't necessarily agree. I think the AFC South, I think Vrabel's going to do a good job in Tennessee. You got Deshaun Watson down in Houston. I'm not real sure this team's going to get a chance like this again. And how often do we see teams that are young get to a situation like this and everybody's like, oh, well, they'll be back, and then they never are?
Yeah, and you make a great point because I've seen the same thing, and look, they rode a wave. They were a team. They got hot. They got in the playoffs. They played a Buffalo team in a game that was ugly to watch, but they came through that. They went into Pittsburgh and put on an offensive show that nobody expected. So they rode a wave into this game. Now, when we come back and we look at next year, is Blake Bortles going to be better than what he was this year, and specifically in the playoffs? Is he going to be a more consistent quarterback? We haven't seen that at any point of his career. So it's very hard to believe that they're going to be better, especially with, as you said, with Vrabel and all that. There's a lot of things here that are stacking up. And yes, I do believe they'll still be a good defense, but they rode a very good wave here. And so many times that's not what happens the next year. Good teams that are good year in and year out, they have that solid quarterback play, solid defense, which they have. They're able to have that consistency year in and year out. And I'm not sure that Jacksonville's there yet. We'll certainly see next year.
Well, see, I don't see how, Matt, they can be there until they get a quarterback that's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple examples of it working in the past, but as a general rule, no, you have to have a good quarterback in order to sustain, especially more than a 2-3 year stint. If you're going to go 4, 5, 6 years, Blake Bortles has to be significantly better. I don't think he was exceptionally great this year. I thought he played better in the playoffs, but like we talked about before, the thing that really hurt the Jaguars in this game was late in the game, not being able to get Blake Bortles outside the pocket and get him on the run like they did last week against Pittsburgh, because that's what really, in my opinion, tore Pittsburgh apart.
Yeah, but Matt, I totally blame this game on the coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, I thoroughly do. They have a good offensive line.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Like as good as anybody. The guards are fast. They run well. They put him into a mode. I mean, early in the game, he'd run out of the pocket, dump it to a back. He'd run out of the pocket, dump it to a tight end. I mean, he was 87% in the first half in his passes, and then, like I said, in the second half, I swear I put this all on the coaches for playing not to lose. The
other thing I saw in this game was we saw guys step up for New England that, like Danny Amendola. Okay, Danny Amendola is a very good player, but wow, yeah, he stepped up in a huge way. Look at Philip Dorsett. We haven't heard from Philip Dorsett all year. He's been talked about as a guy who, in some circles, believe that Brady was just throwing the future away by trading a quarterback to the Colts for Dorsett, who just hasn't done a thing. He came up with a huge play on a scoring drive. The Patriots just consistently, year in and year out, going back to 2001, they have guys step up that you're not expecting and make big plays. But no doubt about it, the coaching, it's why Belichick's the best. He usually out-coaches and out-schemes the other guy, and Jacksonville played not to lose.
Yeah, and we saw that with the Bills, too, where for some reason a coach is calling a pass play on first and goal at the 1. Hell, the Bills may have beaten the Jaguars in that game if it wasn't for that. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're not going to pick the game yet, but I just want you guys' initial thoughts. In Vegas, it looks like the Patriots are going to open as a 5.5 to 6.5 point favorite. I think that's too much. I think this game's a toss-up, Tony. What do you think?
Yeah, right now, I think if you're looking just on what you saw today, I still lean just towards the Patriots because of like what we said today. What is the one constant in New England that they have, and that's quarterback play. And you look at Nick Foles, as good as he was today, he struggled on third down since he's taken over. And I just look at a guy like Tom Brady, and it just who's going to be able to come and take that? Because if you're going to beat the Patriots, you're going to have to take it from them. And I just don't know, with the amount of weapons they have, even with Gronkowski being up in the air, they're going to find a way to put you in positions where you got to make one-on-one plays on defense. And it's going to be hard for me in a situation if Nick Foles gets behind to Tom Brady and that team, what they can do.
Yeah, but my concern is this. With Doug Peterson, he has been a coach that has played to win, even last year when they were, 5-11, 6-10. My only question is, when he gets into Super Bowl, will he be? Because Dan Quinn was a guy that always played to win the game. And then you get to the Super Bowl and he goes brain dead. So I think if Peterson comes out with the intention of not being afraid to lose the game, I think this is a toss-up. I still favor New England a little bit. I may change my mind in 2 weeks. But the reason I favor New England is just Tom Brady. I mean, if he's got the ball with 2 minutes left and you're not up by more than 8 points, he's probably going to beat you. Brian?
Yeah, I think too, the Doug Marrone aspect.
Good.
I'm sorry, I'll just say the Doug Marrone aspect. I mean, early in the game, Tony Romo was talking about how aggressive he's been all year. going forward on fourth down and things like that. And then we saw he got a little tight in the second half. So you just wonder with Peterson what that Super Bowl feeling that Belichick's been a part of will have on you.
Yeah, because I think playing against Belichick and Brady is what makes guys like that.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's what I was going to bring up is if you think about this, what's the one constant we talk about Quinn last year? We talk about what happened today and with the Jacksonville game, what could happen. The constant is always against New England. Everybody tightens up because it's New England. It's Tom Brady. It's Belichick. I saw today, Belichick has been to 21%, 22% of the Super Bowls. We talked about Brady, 16 years. These guys, there's a reason why people tighten up because you get yourself in a position where you think, well, hey, we're up 14-3, man, we got to get this clock moving. And they're patient. They don't get rattled. They make the adjustments, and that's the key. And that was the key in the Super Bowl last year. That was the key today, and that will always be the key when you have Brady and Belichick.
Well, see, I took the Super Bowl last year as not the Falcons playing not to lose. I took it as the Falcons thought that they had to keep scoring because they were playing Brady and Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
And
playing Brady and Belichick changes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it changes everybody's game plan and mindset in some way, shape, or form. And every time that happens, we see it every time that people get out of their rhythm, out of their element when they play New England. New England's not going to get out of theirs. They're going to do the same thing from the opening kickoff until the final gun. They're never going to get rattled. I can't remember seeing a New England team ever. I wouldn't say ever, but I'm going to say with Belichick and Brady, I've never seen them rattled. I've never seen them where they're out of their element, where they're uncomfortable.
Yeah, usually if a team beats them, it's because that team just outplayed them.
No, when they get uncomfortable, it's when Brady's getting his head knocked off. Okay, if you get all over Brady, it happened here in Denver a number of times. We're the only guys that have ever done that to him. And you put a big pass.
I think the Giants did it.
Philadelphia looks like they can. Yeah, they did. You're right.
Giants and Broncos have hit him the most.
Yep. You hit him, and he turns average quick, and then he gets frustrated, and things don't go his way, and he starts bending his knees and dipping and dodging and trying to duck a hit. That turns the game around as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but remember this, Coop. Even that game where you guys were hitting him in the championship game, he still makes an unbelievable pass to get in the end zone. You guys stopped the 2-point conversions while you won the game. So it wasn't like you fell apart. I know, but what I mean is you still, even with doing that, you still got to be playing well the entire time because in the end, he's going to have a shot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you think this is a mismatch, Coop, or you think it's a toss-up?
No, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think Gronk's going to be a big part of it. Whether he plays or not. I think you're going to watch this right up to game time, and you'll make your pick based on who's hurting and who's playing and who's not. But Philadelphia can bring it, and if they get to him, it could be a whole different game. But man, it's just. But like I said every week, it's so hard to bet or even go against Belichick's coaching ability and Brady's ability to make things happen on the field. So, I guess I'm leaning towards the Patriots.
All right. Yeah, the difference in these two teams to me, and it usually is with the Patriots, is I think the Patriots go in the game knowing they're going to win, and the team they're playing goes in hoping they can win. Matt?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You look at all the teams that Patriots have played in the Super Bowl, Andy Reid, Eagles, John Fox's Panthers, it's kind of the same story. These are teams that very good in the regular season, even riding an amazing playoff run, and then something happens in the Super Bowl. It's just, I don't know what it is exactly, what happens, but yeah, teams just do different things when they play the Patriots, especially in the second half. I think you got to favor the Patriots by like a field goal, but I think 6 points is too high just because the Eagles do have what it takes to win. If Nick Foles can avoid the turnover, it's going to be a pretty tough game for either team. And that's what we talked about a couple weeks ago, how really going forward, all these games are toss-ups.
Yeah, because the three teams that were left today were all teams that had the personnel to beat them. But they didn't, at least so far, the team they played today didn't have the coaching. So I think Doug Peterson's the key to this game. If he goes out, I mean, to me, I've never seen a great coach that was afraid to lose. You look at Nick Saban in the national championship game, Tony. I mean, they're down by 3. They get sacked on the first play back at the 42, and you think, well, they're just going to try to get in field goal range. Next thing you know, he's throwing the ball in the end zone to win the national championship.
Well, yeah, and I think even going back to halftime, you benched your starting quarterback that got you into the national championship game. So
2 years in a row.
You see a guy like Nick Saban. Right. You see a guy that's playing to win, playing in the moment, and not taking anything away from Carson Wentz. But much like you see with this Philly team, this is Nick Foles' chance to win a Super Bowl. And if he plays like he does tonight and they can win on third down, because that's where you saw the struggle today, at least in the first half for New England. They struggled on third down. They didn't convert a third down in the first half. If Philadelphia can get them into some third and longs and use their defensive speed and their aggressiveness, then you're going to give them a fighting chance. But like you guys said, a lot's going to fold out during this lead up to the Super Bowl with who can play and who can't play and all of that.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to remind everybody, the Indiana Basketball Show with former Indiana National Champion from the 81 team, Steve Risley, will be on tomorrow night live after the Indiana-Maryland game. That should be approximately around 10 or 11 o'clock Eastern Time. You can check out the Inside Boxing Weekly Show on Tuesday night live at 10 o'clock on thegruelingtruth.net. We'll have another Boxing Legends show with 1984 Olympic silver medalist and light heavyweight champion Virgil Hill. That'll be later in the week. I'm still waiting for him to get back to us for a time there. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Music. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Tony Pike, Mark Cooper, Matt Andruscavage, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.